even in those first like 7 to 8 minutes, I mean, you said it yourself, right? The first goal the Crew scored was kind of a shithousery goal. That like even an extra time when they were down a man, Orlando was still creating chances and they weren't giving them hardly anything defensively. Like if Cincinnati can offer that level of quality with a full 11 at home, Crew have a massively uphill battle to climb.
I understand, like, FC Cincinnati's at home, but it's a rivalry game. Like, I don't know, for me, like, especially with Portland Seattle games, even if Seattle's home, like, I just feel like the home field advantage kind of gets thrown out the waters.
I'm willing to bet if we were to go look at the data and like the stats around home, even between like you guys and Portland, and I'll say this too, I think with even with the Midwest Derby, the Ohio Derby, I think because it's MLS that it almost always bodes well for the home team. I just think it does. Like this is MLS through and through. I mean, look at the playoffs. How many home games have been won, and how many road warriors have there been? There really haven't been. I'm amazed that LAFC beat Seattle in Seattle. I mean, Seattle hasn't lost a playoff game at home since 2012, over a decade. This is just one of those leagues where home does count for a lot, even in a derby. We are very, very close to the end of the road here with MLS Cup playoffs. The conference semifinals just took place. We're going to quickly review those, and then we're going to jump into our previews and our predictions with the quote unquote prediction god himself, Xiao Yan from Rave Green TV, who's had a very interesting week. It's only Tuesday. Had a very interesting week so far. We'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll cover kind of previews and predictions for both the Western and the Eastern Conference Finals. Before we get there, though, the matchups took place this past weekend. I want to get some reactions. Let's start in the East. It's kind of neutral ground for all of us, and then we'll work over to the West. Okay, so we had some predictions in the last video where we ranked each one of the 8 teams' respective chances of making it to MLS Cup final. I hate to say it, bro, Xiaoyan was pretty spot on. He and I were texting a lot this weekend, man. Let's start with Columbus. To me, it was the game where I was hoping to prove some of the guys wrong, specifically Xiaoyan, AJ, John. They all kind of shit on me for thinking Orlando could pull it off at home. I still feel like Orlando played a hell of a game. The red card definitely changed
Yeah, the
things.
red card changed the game completely.
Yeah, man. I still think that there was a lot for Orlando City fans to be proud of. But the game ends 2-0. Gucho takes his shirt off like he won the fucking World Cup final. And we're here now. The Hell is Real Derby is coming up in the Eastern Conference Final. We'll get there. But before we do, Shai, let's start with you, bro. You kind of gave Orlando a chance. They were the number 2 seeds. You didn't write them off entirely, but you weren't really impressed with them against Nashville. They kind of just, subtly walked by them. And then they gave Columbus not necessarily a game offensively, but they made it very, very difficult for them to be firing on all cylinders, so to speak. 2-0. I don't think it's representative of how close the game was. How did you feel about Orlando City against the Crew?
So I didn't watch the entirety of this game. I want to just put that out right now. I
Yeah.
watched, I want to say maybe like 20 minutes of it, which was the end. At least I saw the most important parts of it. I mean, Orlando put up a good fight, but that red card completely changed the game. You could tell Orlando looked worried, like they needed that game to go to penalties.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Columbus I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was a little bit of a fluky goal because it goes off what Ramirez is like shin, like not shin, like knee. Like it was a tap in, but he misses it. And then he gets lucky. His legs are so long. And
it was a very MLS goal.
yeah, and so, and then that kinda crumbled Orlando fans' hearts. If they got fortunate enough to get a goal to send it to PKs, they were, but then Gillespie gets caught off his line, and, I mean, they were close, though. I mean, geez, they still had chances, and I just think that this is where those big players need to come up, and, Columbus's goalkeeper did that. I mean, he came up big for his team, and these are why, that's why I think they might be the team to do it all. But yeah, I mean, it was a tough game. It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And fair play to Orlando, but Columbus
Yeah.
and that firepower, man, it's just too much to handle. That's the problem.
See, that's the thing. And we talked about it so much on this show, right? That they're the most complete team offensively. You have to be more scared of the Crew than really anybody else. Wilfred Nancy has built the most dynamic team in MLS, and a lot of that might be true. And Hector and I talked about this a little bit earlier today. I think I'm not, after this game against Orlando, I'm not quite as scared of Columbus as I used to be. And I think there's a game plan that Cincinnati can take to this Eastern Conference final. We'll talk about that. I don't want to tease that up too much, but I think the way Janssen played in the back at center back for Orlando was massive. I think he was like stifling Cucho Hernandez every step of the way.
Defender of the year.
Yeah, I think, dude, I mean, he looked like a center back that was ready for this game, was ready to knock out the crew. And it's kind of crazy that it really took not just Orlando going down to 10 men. It took 25 minutes beyond that for the crew to net that first goal. And like you said, kind of a fluky goal. I don't know, man. To me, this game was like, I don't know. It was
fine margins.
Yes, fine margins. I think Orlando should still be very proud. I've heard some talk on Twitter already about whether or not the Orlando City should move on from Oscar Pareja. I don't think we're there. I think they finished number 2 seed. They exited the conference semifinals to arguably the most complete team in MLS. I think there's still something there, unless you're going to bring in someone from international waters. I just don't see, which MLS coach that's available or recent MLS coach that's available is going to be a better fit than Oscar Pareja for what they're building right now.
Josh Wolf.
He is locked down for the foreseeable future.
He's busy.
He's busy. He's not accepting calls right now. But with that said, bro, I mean, Columbus to me, 2-0. They go through. It sets up a matchup that everybody really wants to see. So that's why I think this is a positive result. Xiaoyan did technically call it, though. He wasn't giving Orlando a ton of wiggle room in this one. Moving on to the other Cincinnati matchup, Cincinnati-Philly, 1-0. There was a controversial call in this one, but there was one in just about every game this past weekend, to be honest. Mosquera scores. It comes on a play where, man, VAR just can't catch a fucking break. It is what it is, man. The offside may or may not should have been called, but I still believe the better team went through. I'm really curious. Well, I think Ednon saw what I had to say about this, but I want your opinion, bro. Jim Curtin had some interesting things to say after that game.
He did have some really interesting things to say after
that game. He had some interesting things to say, bro. And I don't know. It's some sore loser mentality. I think the exact quote, or not the exact quote, but a reference to it would have been, he's still really proud, despite the exit, to a team that they beat last year, and the fact that they still have yet to win the last game of the season. He's still proud to be representing and managing this club in the Union because, in his words, the 25 other teams, over 90% of Major League Soccer, is in disarray. And he feels the Union are one of the few clubs in the league that are not. And he'd rather be in that position.
What does that even mean?
Exactly. I feel like
it means that his team is so good, yet they should have probably won.
Yes. If you're so good, why didn't you win the game? If your club is not in disarray at all, how come you've never won it? How come you've bottled every opportunity you've been given to win that illustrious trophy? And now you're dragging the rest of the league, which I don't think he even realizes devalues all the work you're putting into your team. Right? It just does. This is the league you compete in. So if MLS is so bad, why haven't you moved on? Why haven't you won that trophy if all these other clubs are still trying to figure it out? I don't know. And I received it my own way, bro. Did you have any thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, see, I didn't really take it as in the sense of him kind of being arrogant in the sense of Philly not being in or Philly being in disarray, like you're saying. Because personally, I respect Philly in the sense that I see them as a team that competes all the time. So to me, Philly has their stuff in line. They have all of their ducks in line, as some folks would say. What I didn't like about that quote was where he said that 25 out of the whole teams in the league were in disarray, blah, blah, blah. That leaves very few teams that actually have their stuff together and can compete, week in, week out to actually go for a trophy. And I disagree with that. I think it's more than those 4 teams, more than that just 10%. So I took offense. Well, not offense, but I was upset by him saying that last part. He can feel however he wants to feel about Philly. Philly is a great team. They fell short again, though. Maybe red flag there, maybe. But he was getting shouts for the U.S. men's team. So I think he is a good coach. He probably needs to spread his wings and try his luck out in a different league to see if he really is as good as he thinks he is. But so far, his work in Philly, I respect it. That last part of the quote, though, bro, I was like, oh, really? Okay. All right.
It just looks like a last-ditch attempt to deflect from yet
100%.
Another failed opportunity
100%.
for them. Yeah,
100%.
it looks like an emotional response. And I just And I'm one of the biggest Philly haters out there. Maybe because I think that for most of the major American sports, Dallas and Philly just don't get along for really anything. But bro, to me, I was like, dude, this could be the worst way to react. Even worse than Xiaoyan's epic tweet that went live this week for LAFC fans, bro. I mean, that it's just one of those like
on par.
Jim Curtin's like quote felt very like, I don't know where else to go. I'm gonna now put this loss on everybody else in the league, even though it's not warranted. It really kind of threw me off. But anyway,
it also, just real quick, it also hurts the entire league, just like you said earlier, bro.
Yeah.
It hurts the entire league in the sense that it makes us look bad. One of the top coaches that gets some national recognition is completely, trashing the league where he works at. We're trying to grow this league every single year. We're trying to get better players, and yet here he is saying that a good 90% of the league can't even win anything. You know what I'm saying? How are we going to grow this league if one of our best coaches thinks that of it? And I mean, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but as a top coach, you shouldn't be losing your cool like that in scenarios. And maybe it was a sore loser response.
It really was.
Now.
That press conference, it made me think of like that scene from Half Baked where the guy just starts going down everybody, say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're cool.
You're cool. Yeah.
It really was, bro. Like he was, again, I'm really curious to the other 4 outside of those 25 that he feels are not in complete disarray. But that's neither here nor there. I thought I'd bring it up because to me, it's just, I think it's indicative of maybe where Philly's mentality really is, right? What else do they have to do to win the final game of the season? What else do they have to do to make it there and take home the trophy? Maybe he's running out of ideas. I don't know. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep trying. They do have a good team. I don't want to disrespect Philly on that level. But at the end of the day, like, you keep plugging away. I don't think dragging the league that you are operating as a manager is the way to get shit done. So anyway, want to throw that out there. They lose. They bow out to yes, a controversial call. But nonetheless, Cincinnati goes through. We'll talk about that conference final here pretty soon. Moving over to the West. Let's start with Houston. Hector, bro, you had, I would say, another controversial call, maybe less so depending on who you ask, right? Whether you're a Dynamo fan or a Sporting Kansas City fan.
You'd say it's less so?
I think less.
I think at the
how
end
the
of the
rules are
day,
interpreted.
is as simple as this. It's just nobody knows what a handball is.
Facts, bro. Facts. I mean, they're struggling with it even today, right? I think we're recording, on November 28th, there was a crazy Champions League moment today where Newcastle probably, I don't want to say got robbed, right? But they struggle with that same exact rule, the interpretation of it, what's a handball, what dictates it, how are refs interpreting this, what context is wrapped around it. We don't really know, but I think at the end of the day, when I saw it in terms of the Houston game, it's 50-50. It could have gone either way, I think. I don't think Sporting Kansas City was robbed. They had multiple chances to get back into the game, even after going down 1-0. I think the better team won. I don't know if we can really argue that, but Hector, from your perspective, bro, I don't know. I mean, do you feel like you guys got away with one, or is this where you feel like you deserve to kind of move through?
I think despite I think the 1-0 scoreline isn't necessarily like a great way to summarize how this game went out. I do feel like the Dynamo were the better team in this game. Polito, most of their attack was pretty quiet throughout this game. They had a few missed opportunities, but I think the Dynamo, they stuck the course. I think aside from that, just a really good defensive job. That handball could have gone 50-50, and who knows how that game would have turned out. But I still feel like when push comes to shove, I think the Dynamo team are just a grittier team, and if it went to extra time, I still think the Dynamo would have came out on top of this.
Yeah, I think and then Xiaoyan said this in the last video too, and I agree wholeheartedly because I think he and I both had Houston going through. But there was a quote Xiaoyan had in the last video where it felt like SKC was playing with house money a little bit. And I think so. They just didn't like themselves, man. Gotti got subbed off in the 60th minute. A true playmaker. Their number 10, someone who's been on fire since late May, could not get it going, was frustrated everywhere on the pitch. Vermees had to take him off because he just wasn't making an impact. In fact, I think he was kind of hurting the team a little bit. He was just trying too hard. They had some, like I said, they had some opportunities through Russell, through Shaloi to try and get back into the game. It didn't fall their way. But I think Houston, man, it's just they were spreading them out so far on the wings. I don't know, man. I think LAFC has a lot to think about as we get ready for Saturday and what that final will look like. We'll talk about it, but there's a lot to be excited if you're a Dynamo fan. And then finally, LAFC and Seattle. Seattle Sounders at home losing for the first time in MLS Cup playoffs to LAFC. This is the first playoff loss in Seattle since 2012.
Probably against the Galaxy. Yeah.
Yeah,
You love to
11
see it.
years. Yeah. It's a historic defeat, considering all of that context. And then on top of that, right? This could be Lodero's, Rui Diaz's, and Montero's last season altogether. So a changing of the guard in Seattle as well. I don't know what else that means for the rest of the organization, but Xiaoyan, you were there, bro. You were there. You got a front row seat. I saw some of the content, front row seat to LAFC and their fans. They travel well. You guys had some chances, but at the end of the day, you let Bouanga have one opportunity. I think he punished you.
I'm not really surprised.
I'm a little bit surprised. I think you guys had opportunities to get back into it, but also defensively at home, you've been better.
This is the theme of the season, bro. This is I've been warning you guys all year. Like, yeah, we can beat some of the poopy teams. We do okay against some of the mid teams, but when we play against a team that can punish you like that, that's what's going to happen. We didn't score against LAFC all season. Not a single goal. And I was at all 3 of the games.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you don't have a clutch player. When you put Jordan Morris at striker, he's going to need at least 3 to 4 chances, at least put one in. Yeah, he got those 4 goals against KC when they were absolute dog poo, but that's a rare thing. Like, we had our chances. If we didn't score early on, they had their one, their star player. You invest in big players, this is what's going to happen. And in my opinion, the deserved team won. I mean, all good things come to an end. I mean, I knew at some point we were going to lose them in the playoffs. The signs were kind of pointing at it. We haven't beaten Cherundolo since he's become the coach. It's funny because I feel like I jinxed us because I never rated the guy from the beginning, and who knew he was going to win an MLS Cup Supporter Shield and do all this jazz. But it is what it is. I feel like I'm really excited because I feel like this might be the wake-up call, the realization we need to, like, start the rebuild. So I'm super pumped for the offseason, actually. I'm really happy about it. I'm super excited. I'm going to be pretty optimistic come next season if we do what I'm hoping we will do. So I'm okay with it, honestly. It doesn't bug me.
Yeah. That's and you were, I mean, like I said, you talked about this a little bit before the game. I get it. I think, sometimes I just feel like fans should be overly optimistic for their clubs, even if it's not realistic. But at the same time, right? I mean, you called it, bro. Like I said, I mentioned at the top of the video, prediction God for a reason. So, maybe that'll change with this video. But with that said, I think, LAFC, was it deserved? I don't know if I would go that far. I think they took advantage of one opportunity, and then Seattle had their moments and just didn't take them.
But the thing is, how good were our chances? Like, in my opinion, I feel like it was just Bouanga's chance and Morris's chance. The other chances
weren't. You guys had Joao Paulo top of the box. And that was
but that's what I'm saying. All these other chances we're talking about was individual smacking it from 20, 22 yards.
But those are still okay. First of all, 22 yards is not far. It's close. These are professional players that they
Well,
can
this is not average, okay?
But like I don't know, bro. I mean, I think the keeper for LAFC, Crepeau, came up big, right? Like he did. I know. What did MLS say it was? Seven big saves.
Yeah.
How many of those were big?
One.
The Morris.
I just think the Morris one.
And not obviously disagrees.
Really? I mean, I'm not discrediting Crepeau. I think he had a good game, but it's nothing to glaze him over. I think he had a good game, and I do agree with the Canadians that said he should be starting over Milan Boron. I think he should, but like,
this was not just a regular goalkeeper performance. This was a man of the match goalkeeper performance that ultimately sent his team to the next round. I think you're selling him a little bit short, man. That one-on-one save against Morris was world class, dude. One-handed, instinctively. That was a one-on-one.
Because he
you're just writing it off like if it's
all Sounders fans.
It's a pressure match, bro.
No,
this is a high-stakes game.
All Sounders fans know Morris ain't going to use his left foot, and so does Crepeau. If we know, he knows.
Okay, but that is a professional player that
I said that was a good save.
And he's probably being heckled every step of the way. Sounders fans are built different, bro. Seattle sports fans in general are built different. And I will say, like, as someone who's just sitting back there on foreign land, essentially, right? On an away field where these fans are insane. He's dealing with that all, like, minute in, minute out, trying to concentrate. And then, yes, has to make a world-class save on Morris on top of all of that.
Can I also say this? We have to remember the kind of comeback that Kripo is on right now. I mean, last season, literally sacrificed his leg for his team. They got the cup, yes, but he had to work his way back into this team, and he's able to put performances up like this. Ultimately, like I said earlier, send his team into the next round. I think my G from Ray Green TV is kind of selling him short. I think Kripo is the reason why LAFC is going into
Bro,
the
I
next
literally
round.
just said he had a good performance, and I do think he should be Canada's #1. But like, I've seen great individual goalkeeping performances, and this doesn't even come into like the top 20 for me.
In MLS? In MLS?
Yes.
In MLS.
All right.
What about this season? What about this season?
This season, yeah, maybe top 10.
Oh, man,
we could have that conversation in another video too, to be honest, bro. I think the atmosphere and the setting for all of this does have to factor in. I think Xiaoyan's almost looking at this from like a form and technique perspective, or I guess the stakes, because you know so much about Morris. But I kind of agree with Ernan. It's so easy in the moment for you to have a lapse mentally and just be like, concentrating too hard or worried about the other players who could get in your way, or trying to fixate on someone who's trying to move you in the box, and then you have to make a save. There's a lot at play. But with that said, I think I'd love to have that debate for a future video. That would be fucking awesome.
Morris should have put that away too.
He should have.
Yeah.
There's a lot he should have put away. Even in this
Uh-huh.
postseason alone against FC Dallas, he had more than a few opportunities.
This is my big problem with Morris. He's not a striker. I hate when Sounders fans say, "Oh, like, okay, it's fine. We're selling Rui Diaz. Morris should just be our striker for the full season." Fuck no. That's such a recipe for disaster. You're gonna really put a guy at striker that can only use one foot and doesn't have any hold up ability, only has speed. That works in some games.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
no. Morris is just like dude. I could count on this finger, this crippled finger,
this
hand. How many clutch games Morris has had as a Sounder since 2016. No,
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know if it's 5 or less. That's kind of crazy. It's 2016. There's been 7 years since then. There's got to be more than that. Otherwise, he wouldn't be earning his place in the starting 11.
It's because he's a Seattle boy, and we let those excuses fly because he's from Seattle
Island boy. But yes, I think that's a little bit of it. I think also you don't really have like a tried and true striker. You kind of have to work with what you got. You need a tried and true striker. That's 100% in the offseason, a massive need for Seattle. Yes. And if you get that, you guys will be lethal. Because think about how many opportunities, like I said, in round 1 alone, I think Seattle averaged over 17 shots per game offensively. That's wild. You just need someone who's going to finish those. And that's where you kind of missed out against LAFC. But big offseason ahead for Seattle. LAFC moves on, and that brings us to the Western Conference final. This game, LAFC, Houston, 2 wildly different fan bases, 2 clubs that started in massively different like positions, I guess you could say, when the season started, right? I didn't even know how to feel about Houston, bro. They were only winning games to start the year on penalty kicks. They were getting a PK almost every game. They'd win 1-0 at home. They'd lose on the road. They win again at home. They'd lose on the road. And it was just, you didn't know what to expect from this team. Fast forward past the Open Cup championship they won, and now going into where we are in the playoffs, man, the transformation of this team and how lethal they become offensively. Are they not the favorite? Like I don't want to ask Hector. He'll say yes. Is the Houston Dynamo not the favorite against LAFC even on the road?
I don't. I mean,
tough.
I want to give my take, but I don't want folks to say, "Oh, it's the Austin guy trying to discredit Houston." So,
I'm gonna turn on whatever you say. It's not gonna be any worse than anything I've said.
I'm gonna say this.
True.
I'm gonna say this. I want to give a big shout out to the coach. Was it Ben Olsen?
Yeah,
he has came in and completely transformed this Houston team. But it's not just him. Shout out to Ache, who everybody wrote off at the beginning of the season.
They were shitting on him at the beginning.
I was gonna say they've wrote him off since he's come to MLS. Everyone thought he's come to retire and whatnot.
He was making some interesting choices off the pitch that got to the media, and folks ran with it. He was at concerts doing irresponsible things that a soccer player shouldn't be doing when he's injured, right? But I mean, they had a huge overhaul of people that they got rid of and players that they brought in. What was it, like 16 or 17 players that they brought in for this season? It's just so many elements come together in that Houston team that has made things work for them. And as much as it hurts to see a rival team succeed, it kind of is cool to see a team in Texas that was in the mud a couple years ago be able to make that switch and be in a position where they've not only won the U.S. Open Cup, but now they are in the Western Conference Finals, where Austin FC was once before last season. So it kind of gives me hope as an Austin FC fan, because a lot of people here say, "Oh, you can't do it night and day." Well, Houston Dynamo got rid of 16 players or brought in 16, 17 players, and look at where they're at. It is possible to make these changes in MLS, and I want to give credit to Houston for doing something like that. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I like that.
I want to add on to Hernan's point is I like the additions they made too. It's kind of like that the Moneyball kind of moves. They brought in guys like surrounding their 2-star men, in my opinion, in Carrasquilla and Hector Herrera. And like these players like Dorsey, Baird, Bossy, like these guys that like some of them are only going to be on like 1 year. Like they were kind of just playing for their careers. Cause like, who the fuck thought these guys were still legitimate MLS players or could be big players in this league? And they've all proven that. And that even includes Steve Clark. Like low-key, I thought the guy was washed after the 2021 MLS Cup final. And he's still doing it too. And the players as well are like, the defense is so rallied behind him that I'm just like, and Ben Olsen, and it includes Ben Olsen too. I was part of the people because I watched MLS early days, just like you, Jose. We're like Ben Olsen, like we thought he was done. Like honestly, I was like, this isn't 2010. Like Ben Olsen's done as a coach.
I wasn't even scared of that hire whenever it first happened. It didn't frighten me as a Dallas fan.
They hired him from
the signing of Ben Olsen was like amongst a lot of Dynamo fans were like, this dude is trash. Look at his record, which I mean, when you compare that to Paulo Nagamura, this is a huge upgrade. But I think, and it's crazy because like Ben Olsen was away from the game for a good chunk.
That's what I'm saying. That too.
He was focused on his art. Have you guys seen his paintings? They're amazing. But
I haven't. I knew he had like a sabbatical. I didn't know that was what he was away for.
Yeah, he was just there painting pictures. But clears his mind, comes back and takes his coaching job here with the Dynamo. And I mean, also props to Pat Onstad, what he was able to do to bring in guys that he felt were going to be able to create a more healthier locker room. Because I will tell you, this locker room for quite some time was very much toxic. It was not, this wasn't a team. And I think with the help of Hector Herrera, who was able to come in and fix the culture himself as well, he came in and brought in guys that were team first guys like Arthur, guys like, Franco Escobar, like these guys with winning history, but also know what it means to build that locker room up. And I mean, since then, Hector Herrera's been hanging out with everybody. They all been going out, partying it up and everything. I know because I was an equipment manager at one point. They were, it's legitimately a healthy locker room. Like everyone's having fun. I lost $20 doing a NCAA bracket challenge because Griffin Dorsey was running one. But but that's it is. It's all like light. Everyone's having, it's like everything is just, there's no pressure. The vibes are great. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a testament to what the Dynamo being able to do that on the field.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's also one name we haven't mentioned is Coco.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about all these winners that we brought in that have that the history, right? But and yes, Xiaoyan did a little bit, but I will say you layer on young talent like Coco Carrasquilla, like Quiñones out wide, and how revolutionary he's been as a winger. I think you look at all of those options, and you mentioned we talked about Dorsey earlier today, Hector. I think it's crazy that like he was so written off as a fullback, and to me now it's like under Olsen, he's probably become a model for what you want your outside backs to do, like be a threat pushing forward into the attack. With this Houston team, and I do want to go back to kind of the preview for the conference final, this Houston team has so many options. We talked about all of these players that are going to attempt to really have an impact on the game. Whereas LAFC, I mentioned it before, right? I don't think it was a super hot take. I feel like they're solely dependent on Denny Bouanga. I think they have a team of stars, but it does come down to whether or not that man is feeling it, if he's firing on all cylinders. And if he's not, I'm not that scared of LAFC. I'm just not. Like,
And I think that
it's
game
not,
against the Sounders proved your point a lot, in my opinion.
yeah, he was given one opportunity, and the guy's like a shark in the water, and when he smells blood, he's going to go after it. I respect that. But if you can find a way to neutralize him enough, and I say enough because more often than not, he's probably going to score. Will he score against Houston at home? Probably. But I think that if I'm asking myself, can LAFC score enough to keep up with what I expect the Dynamo to also do and offer offensively? I just don't know if I can answer that question. I don't know if anybody can. I think Houston right now, at least on the west side of things, offensively, they're probably the powerhouse in MLS right now.
As much credit we gave Houston a couple of minutes ago right now, I do want to say that, excuse me, in my opinion, the favorite in this is still LAFC, or is it
because of home? Is it because like an MLS home game? Is that what it is?
Or because they're defending champs?
I mean, it also the Dynamo's road record is still its road record.
Yeah,
Dynamo has also beat them twice this season. We have to also point that out.
Did they?
Yeah, they have beat LAFC twice this season. If
that's
I'm not
kind of crazy.
Yeah. But it is also hard to beat someone a third time, and I do see Ednot's point a little bit. I think the home factor could be interesting. But do we not feel like all of these guys under Olsen, they're not such winners that like
they like the underdog mentality.
Yeah, the underdog mentality. They like being the ones who are not favored to win. They want to prove everybody wrong. Did you not feel that way, or none?
There's always those two storylines going into a game like this. LAFC, the powerhouse, back-to-back champ, Cherundolo with his record in the playoffs, and the Houston sweetheart story coming in, right? But they already won US Open. But personally being at that stadium for a Western Conference final, living the LAFC 3-2-5-2, hearing what they can be at a home game when the stakes are that high, the stadium 100% is going to weigh heavy.
But I was going to say, I want to
add one more thing along with that. Also, there is a rivalry between the city of Los Angeles and the city of Houston. It goes throughout sports. It's always been Houston and LA, whether it's basketball,
I can see it.
There's a controversy with this.
But you can,
100%.
But you can even say with the Galaxy too, because Houston lost 2 MLS Cup finals against the Galaxy.
Yeah,
it's going to be a banger of a match. I'm not missing that game. No
it's
way.
Gonna be juicy, bro. It's gonna be juicy.
So one thing I was going to add on to Hernan's point was the thing is, the 32-52 or whatever they're called.
Like, respect the 32-52, my
G. Big
okay.
Respect the 32-52.
32-50. I don't know what they're called. So 3-2-5-2. The thing is, they'll try to get in Steve Clark's head, but I feel like Steve Clark is the guy that's going to try to clap back, which I'm super excited about. He's the one guy you maybe don't want to. He's the one who doesn't take shit from any of the fans, and we've seen that numerous times with him.
I think he's just down.
Nobody knows what's going on in Steve Clark's head. I don't even think.
Bro, for real, he's such a wild card. I have no idea what to expect from him, even like as a human being, much less a player, bro. Like he just seems like just a wild card.
There was that video that came out from the Houston locker room where, what was it, defender? There was 2 match balls. Steve Clark got one, and I think a defender center back got the other. The first guy, I don't know his name, he got the ball. He was like, "Let's go orange," and just spiked the ball, right? Like super hyped up. And then Clark gave his speech, and Clark was super calm, kid in his arm or whatever. But I think that goes with y'all's point of him being such a wild card, that at such moments like that where you're just coming off of a game, you're proving everybody wrong that had you written off, and you're able to just be relaxed, cool, calm, and collected and say, hey, job's not done. I respect Clark for that. But again, I come back to my point, y'all. That stadium is going to be insane.
Yeah, insane. I agree. And that will be the key for LAFC. If we get to pinpoint one key to victory for them, I do think it's playing into the home crowd as much as possible. I think you have to. I think if the ball goes out for a corner, you need to be getting the fans into it. I think if you do score, it needs to be an epic celebration and kind of kick Houston while they're down, so to speak. It really needs to be like a true home field advantage, because that is the key for them to win. I think it's the only way they feed off that momentum, is the only way they keep up with the scoring prowess of Houston Dynamo.
The thing is, though, I want to add is, like, we've already seen it, though, that at home, LAFC can be leaky with goals, because Whitecaps were going toe-to-toe for them in one half. It's just, I feel like what killed them was Vancouver isn't as polished of a team to do that, like, for example, the Dynamo. So something that you mentioned early on, Jose, is I think the Dynamo can do that, though.
Yes, I agree.
I have a question for y'all. I have a cool question for y'all. Would y'all agree or disagree that LAFC in playoffs has a different chip?
I guess
I
since
feel
last year,
I feel like in playoffs, LAFC is a bit of a different team, and they've been able to figure out that system of just get to the playoffs. Obviously, they're always top 4, top 2. But from what I've seen, they get into the playoffs, and ever since that Bob Bradley era, they just haven't really messed around.
But
I know it's
again,
still
that's only
young. Exactly. I know it's still young, hasn't been that long, but this team has been very successful, and they don't mess around when it comes to
but
playoff
that's
games.
only 1
Is
year.
what I wanted to say.
The only difference with this season, in my opinion, is that most LAFC teams that have been successful, barring the early days, I think they were very foundationally set up well. Like they had a good team, a decently strong team. I think ever since the CONCACAF Champions League final, I feel like they've just felt, we're going to rely on Bouanga. That's going to be the guy. It's not going to be Vela anymore. It's not going to be, any of our other superstars.
They lost
Chirulo's not going
Chicho.
to change his tactics. Yeah, it's they lost Chicho. Yeah, for sure. But it's just like I think that they know they have a superstar. Why go against the grain? We know what works. Other teams can't stop him. We're just going to do what we can to build our strategy around Bouanga, and hopefully it works. And so far it has. I just think like when I watched 2022 LAFC, I felt like, and maybe Kellen was playing out of his mind. The whole Gareth Bale effect was at its peak too. Vela was playing much differently. There was a lot going for them, but I felt like that was a team, and that was a team to take down a good Philly Union team, a great Philly Union team. This team, I don't know. I see holes. I just think that like they will score. They will take advantage of the home field. I believe. I think the only way they win this game, in my opinion, is they come out extremely hot out the gate and go up 2-0. You need to have a multi-goal lead, a cushion, because I think at some point Houston's going to have the volume of chances to put one in the back of the net, and once they get some momentum, you just have to hope you can keep up with them. So, and one thing I noticed tactically, this was kind of my key for Houston, is if you watch the game against Kansas City, the first 25 minutes, Peter Vermees did not know how to cope with Houston's wide play. Dude, their ability to stretch horizontally from one end of the field to the other, to overload the entire side of the field, and then switch and find a winger who wouldn't miss a stride and get another cross back into a dangerous area, that there must have been 7, 8, 9 chances created off that 20-minute span alone. I think if they do that against LAFC, bro, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And that's like Houston missed a lot of chances against Kansas City. So
I was
we'll
going to say too, in the Seattle game, we saw a lot of, because one thing, Seattle might be poo-poo in some ways, but their midfield is really good. And that's what took control in the LAFC game. And I think Houston's midfield's even better.
I think Hector and I agreed that, like, I think had Seattle won, that would have been a more difficult matchup for Houston. I think
really
defensively, I think cracking Seattle down, because they don't have, just that prolific goal scorer on Houston. They would have really had to be tactical, pick their opportunities. They probably still would have gotten the same kind of volume to an extent. But I think that Seattle would have been more like you can plan, I think, with how good they've been defensively all season. I think Brian would have figured out a way to like really try to isolate, but there's only so much you can do to slow down a player as prolific as Bouanga. Like you just kind of have to assume that he's probably going to score, and we just need to outscore him. We need to figure out that. But tactically, setting up for
his
Houston
chances as much as you can.
Exactly. So for me, at Lumen Field, against a team coming off of a victory against a good LAFC side, it just would have been more difficult, in my opinion, for Houston to crack Seattle's defense. But with that said, I mean, we'll never know. We'll never find out. But I don't know why. I have a gut feeling that like Houston's going to create so many opportunities that it's just a probability game at this point.
So we think this is going to be a high-scoring game, then. We're thinking
I think it could be. I think this could be like a 3-2, bro. I really believe that. I think this could be a 3-2 or a 2-2 that goes into penalties, and then we just kind of see what happens. But I hope so. I really do, because this is what neutrals of MLS deserve after the super long international break wait, after the crazy format we've had to deal with MLS Cup playoffs, all the shithousery that we've seen this season. We deserve a Western Conference final that's just a shootout. So I'm hoping for it. I'm hoping for it. But anyway, that's our preview. Prediction time. I need to hear scores all the way around. How you guys feel about Houston going to BMO Stadium in LA? What's that score look like? Ednan, I'll start with you.
I'm gonna go with a 3-2 LAFC. High scoring game. Ache gets on the score sheet. Boanga obviously gets on the score sheet, but ultimately 3-2 LAFC.
Interesting. Okay. Xiaoyan?
I don't know, man. After we spoke about all those things, I have to stick with what I've already said. I've stuck with my bracket throughout the whole thing. Part of me does want to see Houston win it for sure too. I'm cool with that being the sacrifice in my bracket. It's just, I don't know. The X factor is it's in LA. If this was in Houston, I would have been so confident in them winning it. I would have been so confident. And I like this Ben Olsen redemption arc. I mean, I'll go with 2-1 LAFC. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring.
He buckled.
I know,
He
but that's
crumbled. He crumbled under the pressure of the 3-2.
no, but that's what I've already said. I told you guys I want to stick with my bracket through and through, regardless.
He's trying to be 100%. He's trying to be 100%.
I was thinking with clarity. Then my judgment's now clouted a little bit. You know,
Houston could win it, bro. Houston
no, they
could win.
could.
I don't want to.
I just said they
Houston
could.
win it.
What the? You're the one who picked LAFC. You're the one who was backing them.
No. I did pick LAFC, but I'm saying Houston could win it too. I mean, I agree.
It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close.
I'm just gonna say.
To be fair, anybody could win this game.
I'm just gonna say 2-1 though, because I don't think somehow it's gonna flip massively where we're gonna see a bunch of goals. I think we'll at least see a couple goals versus the entirety of the conference semifinals being like 1 goal differences. I think this will be 2-1, where I think Houston might get on the goal scoring sheet first. I think Houston's going to hit him early with that sucker punch, and then LAFC are going to break all Dynamo hearts, get 2 and go through, and then
it could happen like that.
Yeah.
It really could.
All right, Hector. We already know who you're picking, bro, but give me a score.
I'm going to say 2-1 Dynamo, and it's going to go to extra time.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, so they win it in ET.
In ET. Interesting.
Big.
So look, I got a whole
Pay
scenario
homage
too.
to the great Brian Ching.
Wait. How many beers are we going to predict LAFC to throw on the field if Houston pulled this off?
Oh,
mate, you're still going, bro. You're still going. wait while you're ahead.
Yeah, Raven
I will
TV
say, man,
loves
there is
LAFC.
no
Would you say
atmosphere
that?
like the LAFC's atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
I think when it's like true to the core of like Liga, and this is coming from a guy that grew up watching Liga MX. They are, and I probably most of them are from Liga MX fan bases as well. So it is like that's what you want in a crowd. Aside from the violence, I think it is what you want from like a good crowd. Cheyenne is very like judging me right now as I say this.
No, I don't.
I want to
mind.
feel the hatred. You know what
No,
I mean?
I don't mind. I don't mind the beer throwing if it was like that Championes Cup final where Club America's goalkeeper was like standing in front. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, that makes sense. I would be pissed too. But like when the team's celebrating and stuff, we've seen them like get like Salt Lake Sounders when they knock around the place and they just throw shit at the. I'm like,
but there's a lot of fans that do that. It's not just LAFC. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I remember, and maybe Edna doesn't remember it, strategically, but I remember like Ferreira celebrating at Q2 and like just getting beer dumped all over him. I mean,
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
I think Jesus Ferreira gets thrown beer at him as also at Shell Energy.
Yeah, 100%, bro, 100%. So like, I just think it happens, right? Like, you don't want to see your team get dunked on, and like when it happens in late in the game or in extra time or whatever it may be, I expect it, and I would welcome it as an opposing player.
I guess.
With that said, my prediction, I think it's 2-1 Dynamo. I think that the winning goal or one of the goals comes on another controversial call by a referee.
It has to,
and it's like a penalty kick or something, and they find a way for Houston.
I was gonna say, if anything, wouldn't it be the other
a bossy goal?
PK Merchant.
Yeah, bro. I think another bossy goal, and that's gonna be it, bro. He's gonna rile up the fans. They're gonna feel momentum, and more importantly, LAFC fans are gonna be more tilted than the Rave Green TV tweet that we saw on Monday. I think it's gonna be wild, bro.
Also, fun fact: Bossy has no idea why he does the Archer celebration.
It looks cool, bro.
He has no idea.
You pull it out of the quiver.
Some guy brought up the idea of him doing the Archer celebration against Austin FC because they wanted to say "fuck you" to Rudy.
I think he should just do the Cuauhtemoc, bro. You know what I mean? Just like kneel down and You know what
Take
I mean?
the cleat
I just
out.
wanna-
Take the
yeah,
cleat
take the
off.
cleat out. One of those. I'm totally down with that. I think, or El Nino. There's more than a few celebrations if he's still struggling to figure out which one's his. But
Oh no, he loves the Archer. He just doesn't know why he does it.
yeah, bro. I don't know. The game go either way. I actually hope it's Ednon's prediction as far as the score goes. I don't really care in terms of who wins. If it's a 3-2, I'll take it out.
Yeah, I
think it's
agree. I'm with
fantastic
Jose
final.
on that too. I agree.
Fantastic final if it's a 3-2. All right, boys. Moving over to our final preview and prediction for the video today. The Hell is Real Derby 3.0. Ohio's going to be popping on Saturday. That's probably never been said more than a handful of times in anybody's life. With that said, Cincinnati hosting Columbus Crew. Man, I don't know. They play each other now. This is for the third time. They've split it 1-1 this season. I don't know how to feel. The Columbus Orlando matchup threw my mind off entirely for what to expect with Columbus versus Cincinnati. I don't know. I feel like there is now a blueprint to stifle Columbus's offense if you can make it work with your physical play. The TQL is going to be popping, boys. I mean, I kind of have my own predictions for this thing, but Xiaoyan's been so gung-ho on the Crew up to this point. You've been Crew 96 the whole way. They're going to win MLS Cup. Wilfred Nancy this, Glaze, Wilfred Nancy that. Let's just jump
so
into,
far I've been right.
You've been
and I've
right.
saying
You've
that
been
for a
right.
while.
But it hasn't come without the struggle, right? It hasn't come without the struggle.
It is what it is.
Yeah, game is game, bro. I recognize it. So, prediction god, tell us why you think Columbus Crew is going to win this game.
I really don't have much logic other than Supporter Shield winners don't win MLS Cup.
Bro, Henry and I talked about this earlier today, bro. These Supporter Shield winners don't win merchants are so annoying on the timeline to deal with, bro. Like, it's the laziest take. It's the laziest take in the world by far.
Hey, but sometimes that's all you need.
Bro, it's so wild. Like, it's gonna be an epic game, and Xiaoyan's like, bro, but they're not gonna win because they won Supporter Shield. Like, what? It just doesn't make any sense, bro. Okay, look, how about this? Columbus, I think that they said that they're gonna Cincinnati's gonna set aside 200 seats for the Crew fans.
Is that good or bad?
When how big is TQL? It's gotta be 20K, right? It's a fully fledged soccer stadium. It's got to be like 20K plus. Anyway, they're only setting aside so many, so it should feel like a true home field match for Cincinnati with all the stakes up for grabs. And considering that Lucho was just crowned the Landon Donovan MLS MVP, I got to throw Donovan in there because Xiaoyan hates Donovan. And Hector does too a little bit. So
fuck that guy.
But, bro, newly crowned MVP. Maybe he's got that swag to him this weekend. I don't know, right? Maybe I don't know. Maybe he wants to go up, against Bawanga in the final to really sell the MVP debate. I don't know, right? Do you not feel like Cincinnati could do it, man? Noonan's got to feel good about his chances at home.
As a fan of Noonan from day one when he played for the Sounders, he ain't gonna do it.
Why? Give me a real reason, not this Supporters Shield shit.
I think too. If you come in with a plan, I think you could see FC Cincinnati struggle, and that's what Philly did. Honestly, I was really surprised on how well the Union played in Cincinnati against FC Cincinnati. Like, part of me was worried my bracket might have been ruined after that game because I was like, shit, I think Philly might take this game to ET. Since he got their one goal, and I feel like that was the one opportunity they got. But the thing is, though, unlike Philly, Columbus can clap back, though. Like, I'm more confident in them to do that. If that
Columbus didn't score in the full 90 with 20 minutes of that being against 10 men. So you think they're going to go into Cincinnati?
Dude, these derby games, man, when it's a rivalry game, all these things get thrown out the window. And I think the star power of Columbus is going to do it over the Supporter Shield winners, man. I just can see it.
And now let me ask you this, bro. If they go into extra time 0-0, who you backing?
If they go in extra time 0-0, I'm backing Cincy from the get-go. I think they're going to ultimately take the game. I think Xiaoyan is highlighting the star power of Columbus, yes, but he's completely skipping over the people that Cincinnati have.
But have any of those guys done anything throughout the playoffs?
You have Vasquez.
How many of them are young?
What matters is what they do that night. You know what I'm saying? What matters is how they perform.
And they won't do anything.
How do you know that? You can't.
Because I know.
You know what I'm saying?
There's no way we're just taking your word for it, bro.
this is a great team with great players. They have the MVP. They have a great defense. They have Vasquez.
That's great. You can have the MVP. Doesn't mean you're going to win MLS Cups. You need people that are going to be cutthroat in the important playoff matches. And I think Columbus have those guys in a Rossi, a Christian Ramirez, a Cucho Hernandez.
They very much
none of those guys scored against Orlando. Just saying.
Christian Ramirez did.
Finally, yes, but in a regulation did not.
And Cucho Hernandez did.
Yes, with the open net at his disposal.
It is what it is. It is,
bro. It is what it is.
It's an L take from Xiaoyan. I think. I don't know. I think Wilfred Nancy will prepare his team. He's a very dynamic manager. I expect him to. He ran a 3-4-3 against Orlando. I expect him to not be as aggressive against Cincinnati. I think he'll revert that back a little bit. But I do think that, like, if Cincinnati can hold them, if they do not get scored on first, if they are not forced to open up themselves at home, this could fall perfectly into their hands, man. Like, perfectly. I think. And I think, look, man, if you weren't paying attention, if fans at home did not watch Columbus Crew against Orlando City in that semifinal, especially late in the game, I haven't seen Cucho Hernandez that frustrated all season. Since he's arrived in MLS, I have not seen him that frustrated. It's clear that if you can do that, you can stifle him. Bro, he was acting like Janssen was prime Sergio Ramos or prime Piqué. He was getting that upset with him and just the scenario in general. He was taking it out on his teammates for some of the missed opportunities they had, especially in the second half. I think it's crazy. If I don't know, if the back line for Cincinnati can find a way to just keep him at bay, it's only going to continue to kind of bode well for them and in their favor as the match continues to go on. That's all I'm going to say. That's it.
That's a good take.
So predictions all the way around for the Hell is Real Derby. I think that I want to say this is just as juicy of a matchup to me as LAFC and Houston, but I think that there's probably more scoring potential in that game. But Ohio, the battle for Ohio. Let's start with Hector this time around, bro. No dog in this fight. Who do you think wins and score?
I'm gonna go with Columbus Crew. I think the argument that FC Cincinnati has the film to how to defend against Columbus is valid, but at the same time, I think Columbus also got a good amount of film on how to handle them from the Philadelphia game as well. So I think that this is going to be a fairly contested game. As a matter of fact, I think this game's going to pens, and I'm giving it to Columbus. I think this is going to be a 1-1 draw, and then it's going to go to pens going to Columbus Crew.
Interesting. I like that, actually. 1-1 would be interesting. All right, Xiaoyan?
I actually agree with Hector.
Penalties, 1-1?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hector, hey, he's been 100% all season, so you might have been perfect with that prediction. All right, Ednan, what do you think, bro?
I agree with them in the part where they said this is going to be a low-scoring game. I do think this one is going to be a bit of a lock. You know, I think both teams are going to wait for one of them to mess up. They're going to be scared to make that mistake, as you can say. But I see Cincy going through with a margin of just 1-0 or even like a 1-1 extra time PKs scenario. But it's going to be a tough match.
Yeah, I think so too, and I'm sticking with it on that too. I think Cincinnati has not yet given me a reason to doubt them whatsoever. I think that they're the reigning Supporters Shield winners. They are the number 1 seed for a reason. They're at home behind a stadium and a crowd that knows how to show up for games like this. All the stakes are on the line. As good as Columbus is, I can see a set piece, a 1-0, a set piece coming in, a corner kick, a free kick that bounces around, something along those lines, really being the decisive factor here in Cincinnati going through into their first MLS Cup final. I think that this is, I don't know if they're going to win it, but I do see them coming out of the East. So I'm going to.
I want to say one more thing on the Crew. If that red card doesn't happen in that game, do we have a different story?
Yeah, maybe. I think it would have just been closer, like they would have won it on penalties. That's just how I view it anyway.
Nah,
Okay.
man. Janssen was giving them nothing. And even in those first 7 to 8 minutes, I mean, you said it yourself, right? The first goal the Crew scored was kind of a shithousery goal. That, even an extra time when they were down a man, Orlando was still creating chances and they weren't giving them hardly anything defensively. Like, if Cincinnati can offer that level of quality with a full 11 at home, Crew have a massively uphill battle.
I understand, like, FC Cincinnati's at home, but it's a rivalry game. Like, I don't know, for me, like, especially with Portland Seattle games, even if Seattle's home, like, I just feel like the home field advantage kind of gets thrown out the waters. That's just my take.
I'm willing to bet if we were to go look at the data and like the stats around home, even between like you guys in Portland, and I'll say this too, I think even with the Midwest Derby, the Ohio Derby, I think because it's MLS that it almost always bodes well for the home team. I just think it does. Like this is MLS through and through. I mean, look at the playoffs. How many home games have been won, and how many road warriors have there been? There really haven't been. I'm amazed that LAFC beat Seattle in Seattle. I mean, Seattle hasn't lost a playoff game at home since 2012, over a decade. This is just one of those leagues where home does count for a lot, even in a derby. And I've been unfortunately proven wrong on that debate way too many times. So now I had to just give into it, man. Like I just think that the home team, it says a lot. And you said it yourself. You struggle to back Houston because it's in LA. I feel the same way about Cincinnati. I feel the same way
because Houston's not good away though. There's a difference.
That's a good shout.
But like you said, in a derby match and playoffs, I don't know if that can factor in that much. The road record, right? My opinion anyway. But I don't know. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a good shout, the statistic on the home game thing, because that's kind of pounded in since day one when the season starts into all these teams is if you win your home games in MLS, you can most likely make playoffs. So I feel like it's in the team's DNA to just make sure to secure those home games. And at the end of the day, maybe it's like a mental thing. When you're at home, you just turn it up a bit more when you're in MLS because of this recipe that some coaches have tried to implement into their team. Win home games, do whatever you want on the road, and you'll most likely make playoffs in this league.
Yeah, I think so too, bro. Either way, though, it looks like we're evenly split on both of these conference finals. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. Either way, if you are tuning in at home, you made it to this part of the video. I mean, first off, thank you. But second, and you haven't tuned into MLS playoffs so far, or you missed the last part of the regular season, guys, it is getting as really exciting as it ever gets. I feel like we waited 2 weeks during the international break just for these types of matchups. I'm excited for Saturday. I don't think it's going to really get better than this. The MLS Cup final probably will be slightly better because of the occasion, but I think these conference finals are set up to be nothing but exciting. So I think that's it, bro. That's the entire video from our side of things. So I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Everybody has our predictions. If you disagree with any of them, with some sound logic, I don't want to hear any echo chambers in the comments. I don't want to hear the supporters shield, winners don't win, merchants. Xiaoyan has said that on this show. I don't know how many times that he's been proven wrong with Cincinnati continuously advancing. So I think it'll happen one more time.
Since he would get to this point,
but you shit on them beforehand, and I'm making it known to everybody who hasn't watched an episode before that is a lazy debate. But nonetheless, Xiaoyan has been right. Let's find out. Let's see if this prediction god thing carries into the MLS Cup final. If it does, I'll tip my hat. I'll give it to you. It is what it is. But until then, I'm going to talk my shit. Okay. So for everybody here at Wake Up MLS, my name's Jose. That's Hector. That's Ednan. That's Xiaoyan. We'll catch you guys next time.